Why, hello. Hello, all. So I had a couple of requests to talk about travel. I'm just going to throw a couple of videos in there. If you look at my channel, you can see I've done quite a bit of traveling. So I just wanted to share the places I've been to and traveled to thus far in this video. I got in a lot of travel in the past few years, in the past decade really. I've always had wanderlust since I was a kid. I had a pet dog and we used to go for walks all over the neighborhood. When I was in college, I used to volunteer a lot. There was this one place I used to volunteer at. It was like a thrift store. It was kind of like a Salvation Army. So there wasn't a lot going on there. They had a good selection of books. So yeah, I used to get into reading the books. There was a lot of books there from like the 70s and 80s, fiction books. The few books I did read, they happened to have traveling in them. Like I remember the one book I read, it was called What About the Baby, I believe. So yeah, it was about a young girl. She was like 18, 19. She got pregnant, gave birth, and somehow she found herself to be a part of some sort of cult or something, and they wanted her baby because it was a part of, you know, this cult society in some type of way. So yeah, she figured out her adoptive parent was a part of this whole thing. So she runs away, but she's trying to get her baby back and everything. But yeah, she ends up in a lot of different places. She ends up in Utah and San Francisco. And then the other book, one of the other books that I read, I believe it was from 1986. It was about this young woman. She was like 23 or 24, something like that. And she's just hitchhiking. And she gets picked up by a truck driver. So yeah, she's in California. He's going over to the East Coast to New York. So she's like, okay, let's go there. You know, she's kind of just doesn't know what she's doing in life, you know. So yeah, she gets picked up by this truck driver. He's another younger guy. And they end up going to like Vegas, Denver, you know, all these different places. And they end up in New York. They fall in love. They get married, yada, yada, whatever. So yeah, I like those books, you know, but one of the main things that made them interesting to me was them, you know, traveling and going to all these different places. Since I've been an adult, like early 20s, I guess, you know, I've always had dreams of traveling, like literal dreams at night when I'm asleep. The other types of dreams I have are just weird. It's always like in the past, I've been there before, and it's basically just like deja vu, but everything is all different. But yeah, dreams I have of like the present and the future, they tend to do with traveling. So I was like, I want to fulfill my dreams, but you know, the other part of me was like, I can just save all that money, but you know, the conclusion I came to was, what is the point of just saving money? Live a little, you know. So yeah, I've gotten some traveling recently. I literally felt like World War III or something was gonna happen. Like, I don't want to sound dramatic, but it's like the world felt less secure. I don't have any more future plans for traveling. I got in a lot of what I wanted to do, and now I got to see the world a little bit. It's not such a pressing thing. So yeah, no more future plans. I think I'm done traveling for now. But yeah, I'm just gonna go into some of the places I've been to, just a brief overview, and then I'm gonna do some favorites. So the first trip I went on when I was 18 was to Nova, or Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. I was honestly surprised at how gorgeous that city was. It definitely fulfilled my expectations of traveling somewhere new. I traveled a bit around Nova. I went to the Luray Caverns, And I did the Shenandoah Valley Skyline Drive. Those places were definitely a pleasure to visit. And I also stopped at a couple of battlefields from the Civil War. Then I went on a road trip to California with some friends, but we stopped at a lot of places to and from. We went through the Midwest, which I thought was amazing. We stopped by Denver. We went through the Rocky Mountains. We spent a day in Las Vegas. We stayed at the hotel called the Luxor. It's fashioned after an Egyptian pyramid. Then we went down to Los Angeles. We stayed near Santa Monica Beach. We definitely spent a lot of time at the beach. We went to Hollywood, Beverly Hills. We stopped at a couple of national parks, and then we came up through Nevada. I believe it was Pinnacles, and then Lassen Volcanic National Park, I think it was called. So yeah, basically you drive on the road that goes right through and over these volcanoes. So the magnitude was just unbelievable. Then we went through Nevada, Utah, Wyoming. So yeah, we stopped by Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, and then we went up to Yellowstone National Park. So yeah, definitely one of my faves. And then the Rocky Mountains, like I couldn't believe the scale of the mountains that you find in Wyoming. Like driving through those mountains, it was just like completely unreal. Yeah, Wyoming through the mountains is probably the most beautiful drives I've been on. So yes, what a road trip. It was really mind-blowing to me. Gorgeous, really. Exceeded my expectations. Following that, I went to Canada with one of my roommates from college. She was the one from Mexico. So yeah, we just wanted to go somewhere. So we were like, let's just go to Canada. So yeah, that's what we did. We took the Amtrak train to Toronto, Canada. I believe I was 21. We spent a few days in Toronto, which was cool, being in a different country. But the amazing part to me was the train ride there. So yeah, we passed by the Great Lakes, past these little towns, Niagara Falls, and then the Toronto Tower. So yeah, I did really enjoy the train ride there and all the sights and everything. That was in the springtime, and then on the summer we were like, let's go on a legit road trip, okay? So we decided to go down to Tennessee. She liked Elvis and the Beatles and stuff, so we went down to Graceland. We stayed in that hotel down there. We visited Elvis's mansion. So yeah, that was definitely interesting. We were just stopping around and like doing random things that were in the area. Like we visited a music museum in Memphis, and then we visited this plantation. It was like an historical site. And then, we did a wine tasting there as well. Then after college, I always wanted to visit NYC. So, I visited NYC with a couple of friends. It was around New Year's. We went to a couple of museums. We went to a couple of Broadway shows. We watched the ball drop. I also visited again in 2021. I went by myself. I just did some things that I wanted to do that I didn't do on my first time there. So yeah, like I went to the Statue of Liberty. I just had a chill time and took in the city. And then I went to Orlando, Florida with a couple of friends. We just wanted to go to Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld. So yeah, that's what we did. We went and visited those places. Fun stuff. In 2018, I went on a Southwest road trip with a couple of friends. So we just took a plane to Phoenix and we rented a car there. We went to Saguaro National Park, which I thought was amazing. There was a bajillion cacti there. I love cacti and the desert. And then we went up to Grand Canyon National Park, which is one of my faves. Then we were just driving around in the desert. We stopped at Albuquerque. We had some bomb Mexican food. we came back around to Phoenix. We went on a hot air balloon ride. And yeah, definitely a very, very cool trip. I definitely enjoyed. I went to Savannah, Georgia for my 25th birthday with a couple of friends. So yeah, my mom used to watch like ghost shows and stuff like that on TV, and Savannah, Georgia would always come up, like the Haunted Marshall House Hotel and a few other spots. So yes, I definitely went to all those haunted spots and stayed in the Marshall House Hotel. I didn't see any ghosts, but I definitely had an eerie feeling. They have some interesting historical spots there as well that we visited, and we ate a lot of good Southern food. In February 2020, I went to Chicago with a friend. She really wanted to go there. I wanted to go there. We're both kind of open-minded, so yeah, we went to the Botanical Garden, we went to the planetarium, we went to Lake Michigan. We kind of just explored the city. This was before the COVID outbreak became a big problem. But yeah, and we definitely had a lot of Chicago style pizza. In 2021, I went on a road trip around Pennsylvania, New York. I went to Pittsburgh, stayed around there. Then I went down to Gettysburg, Philadelphia, Salem, Massachusetts, and then Niagara Falls. Then I came back to Pittsburgh. So yeah, that was a solo trip. In 2022, I also did some solo traveling. I got in a lot of traveling. I went to Charleston, South Carolina. That was just a city on my bucket list that I wanted to visit. I just hung around, did different things. I went on a couple of tours. I went on a horse-drawn tour around the city. There's a lot of history there. I visited the beach there, which was really nice. I also went on a cruise to the Bahamas from Miami, Florida. So yeah, that was my first time doing a cruise. I had actually planned this trip for 2021, but it got canceled due to COVID-19. So yeah, I spent a couple of days in Miami, Florida, then headed off on my cruise to the Bahamas. I also went to New Orleans. I just stopped there for a couple of days. I wasn't there very long, but I definitely loved what I saw. Yeah, I went to the Bayou, Voodoo Museum, French Quarters. In 2022, I also traveled by Amtrak train to California. So yes, that was my second time on the Amtrak train. I went down to California. I went on a road trip throughout California. I also visited Utah in 2022. I went to, the main parks and attractions that were on my route in both states. Sequoia National Park, Death Valley, Yosemite. I also visited San Francisco, stayed in that city. On the Utah road trip I went on, I stopped by the Salt Flats, Zion National Park, Arches. So yeah, also solo trips. In 2023, I did some more solo traveling. I revisited Washington, D.C. I just did whatever I wanted to do. I just basically just hung around the city, took in the sights. I also went on a cruise from Seattle to Alaska. So yeah, I spent a couple of days in Seattle. Then I went on a cruise with quite a few stops in Alaska. That was the second time I've been on a cruise, and then I just went on a series of 3 road trips. Like, I live in the perfect location to do road trips all over the country, so I'm like, hey, why not? So first road trip, I headed out west. I went to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota, headed south down to Big Bend, Texas, and then headed out east to Florida, came back up. Second road trip, I headed way out west through North Dakota out to Washington. I went to Olympia National Park. I came back down through Idaho. I stopped at Boise, Idaho. Then I went down to Utah, Arizona, headed back out east, and came up to Smoky Mountains National Park, came back home. Third road trip, I headed out east to Pennsylvania, went through New York, Long Island, came up to New England, and then headed back home. I also went to Hawaii, which I mean is an island surrounded by an ocean, which is just freaking amazing in itself. At the end of 2023 in December, I also stopped by Indianapolis. I was just there for a couple of days. In 2024, I went to Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. I just booked a professional tour. And then I went to Ireland, England, France, Switzerland, and Italy. So yes, a lot of traveling. Most you can see done within the United States. I've been to 10 other countries in total, and I've been to 48 US states. So since I've traveled all over the United States, I'm going to be doing a favorites on that. Okay, so favorites. First, I'm gonna do my favorite cities. First, I'm gonna go with Washington, D.C. So I'm going with Washington, D.C. because I just think it's a gorgeous city. I love the architecture. It looks like Roman, Greek influence. I love the townhomes that line the streets. They are just adorable and lovely. I love the Japanese cherry blossoms that bloom there every spring and make everything look just, I don't know, it's just a gorgeous city. There's a lot of water. You know, it's a pretty big city, so there's a lot to do. It's a busy city. And the architecture is just unique. It has like an old style to it. And there's no skyscrapers, so that's also different. But there's quite a few monuments and memorials and museums. Number 2 favorite city, I have San Francisco. So San Francisco is definitely the most unique city I've ever been to. It's like a city on top of mountain peaks, like on top of rugged mountain peaks. It's the most uneven place I've ever been. I love the neighborhoods that sit on top of the mountain peaks, you know. The roads go round and round up the mountain peaks. It's like, to me, it's like something out of a Dr. Seuss books. Like the houses there are so adorable. Then you have the gorgeous townhomes and everything. There's lots of water and beaches. Then you've got the downtown skyscrapers and everything. So yeah, it's a pretty big city. There's a lot to do. So yeah, definitely up there as one of my favorite cities. Third, I have Chicago. It's probably one of the biggest cities I've been in. I don't think I've ever seen that many skyscrapers in one spot. But there's also the old-timey part of the city. It's got a lot of old charm to it as well. I love how the metro train takes you through the skyscrapers and then to the other parts of the city that, you know, it has its own unique old-timey charm to it. Okay, so for our favorite states, first I'm gonna have to go with Arizona. I love the desert, I love the sand, I love the heat, I love the cactus trees, I like the unusual formations that happen in that type of terrain, you know, just driving along the road or what you see at like a national park. I love the Grand Canyon, you know. And then second, I have Nevada. Nevada, from what I can tell, is dry, barren, empty landscape, some shrubs, some tumbleweed. I don't know why I love it. It reminds me of a different planet or something like that. And then all the way in the south of the state, you have a jewel of the city, Las Vegas. So yeah, I also love Vegas. Third, I have California. I like how California varies a little bit in terrain and landscapes. I mean, California has a little bit of everything. You have mountains, you have deserts, you have beaches, you have giant trees and forests. I mean, like, California is a gorgeous state. I don't think you can really go wrong. Okay, so next I'm going to do national parks, my favorite national parks. So first up, I have the Grand Canyon, which is in one of my favorite states, Arizona. I mean, it's just like a big, beautiful hole in the ground. What's not to like? Yeah, anyways, the sights are just amazing. The scale of it is just amazing. It's hard to explain unless it's there before you. You can also scale the Grand Canyon. So yeah, there's a hiking path. You can scale the whole Grand Canyon, which is also, I feel like, just one of the most amazing things ever. But it's very physically demanding. It gets very hot in there. But yeah, I loved it. And then there's a hotel down there as well. So you can hike down there and then stay at the hotel and then hike back up on the other side. But yeah, I love the Grand Canyon. I think it's one of the most beautiful sights. So next I have Yellowstone National Park, mostly within Wyoming. So, I mean, you have mountains there, you have hot springs, you have geysers, and on top of that, the park is situated on top of a super volcano. Yes, the park is beautiful. There's a lot of unique formations, geological activity. There's also wildlife there, buffalo, elk, So yes, it's definitely an experience. Third, I have Arches National Park in Utah. So yes, Arches National Park is hard to explain. It's just something that you have to experience for yourself. But yeah, there's a lot of unique formations that are, massive in person. But yeah, I found Arches National Park very pleasing. I was just amazed at what sort of formations wind up in, the desert environment. So yes, that was my top 3 favorites. City, states, national parks. Favorite for Europe. The European countries I've been to, I don't know. Each country kind of holds its own charm and charisma, I think it'd be splitting hairs, but, if I had to choose, I'd probably have to go with Italy. So yeah, gorgeous landscapes and cities. But yeah, anyways, that was it. I'm so done with traveling.